Have you ever wished you could fix the past? Fix what's broken, whether it's a painful past, difficult relationship, or even aspects of ourselves or others that cause suffering? A lot of times we long for a solution, a magic wish or wand that can magically make things right. But what happens when some things can't be fixed in the way that we want them to be, right? Or the way we imagine? What if true healing lies beyond the fix? Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, Finding Yourself Again. My name's Dontre. I'm a narcissist survivor who has dedicated my life to helping people heal from trauma, toxic relationships, abuse, and childhood neglect, as well as mental health disorders. The purpose of this channel is to be a light and guide for you on your healing journey towards finding yourself. If this content resonates with you, then hit the subscribe button, drop a like or a comment. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Alright y'all, so today's video is gonna be about beyond the fix. Talking about things that basically can't be fixed in the sense that we imagine, right? So I'm gonna talk about the definition first, right? So this refers to the crucial stage in healing where we move past the yearning or relentless pursuit of changing what is fundamentally unchangeable, whether it's a past event, another person's nature, or a specific irreversible outcome, right? So that's what beyond the fix is talking about. It's about moving past the things that we can't fix. So the first thing we're going to talk about is cultivating radical acceptance. This is not about approving what happened or condoning harmful behavior. It's about acknowledging reality for what it is without fighting it, so that you can release the suffering caused by resisting what is. It's very important to start radically accepting things that can't be changed. For example, like, let's say I had a huge mole on my neck and it's like huge. I can't change that. You know what I mean? So like, am I going to just be going through life stressing about this huge ass mole on my neck? I mean, you could if you want to, but personally, I'm going to choose to radically accept, hey, there's a big ass mole on my neck. There's no way that other people don't see it, right? I see it. And you know, and it's, you know, I'm not fighting it at that point, right? And once you just accept yourself for who you are, then you can release the suffering that's being caused by trying to resist what is the truth, right? So the next one we're going to talk about is mental freedom. This is what you get when you release that suffering, right? This mindset liberates energy that was previously consumed with wishing things were different, right? Redirecting it towards personal growth, self-care, and building a new healthy life. So all that energy that you were basically consumed by and using for wishing things were different, and you know, it's like you're putting all your energy. I've been there, you know what I mean? Like I've been there, and I still do this to this day. I still have to redirect. I notice I got to do that a lot. You know, I got to redirect my thoughts a lot, often. A thought will pop into my head. I'm like, oh, I gotta reframe that, you know? It's this mental freedom that you have, you know, this just, it feels free and more light. So we're going to talk about what this relates to most regarding like traumas and stuff like that. So the first one is trauma and childhood neglect. So the unchangeable nature of past traumatic events and experiences of childhood neglect. That's what we're talking about. You can't undo what happened, but you can change how you relate to it and its impact in your life. And it's very important to know that, yeah, you can't change what happened to you, right? You know, and you know, you can't change, like, for example, personality disorders. Like, you can't change the fact that you are diagnosed with that. You know, it's lifelong. It's a lifelong diagnosis. However, you can change how it relates to you and the impact that it has on your life, right? You can still change. Although it can't be fixed, you can still change, right? And it's very important to know that. So we're going to talk about narcissistic abuse and toxic relationships, and how it relates to this. So the reality is that an abuser's core personality and patterns of behavior are often deeply ingrained and unlikely to change, right? Despite our hopes and efforts. Also, the loss of the irretrievable, idealized version of the relationship. So that's another thing that you're losing too. You're gonna lose the idealized version of the relationship. For me, that's what happened. Once the relationship ended, we separated. There was a lot of moments where I missed the irretrievable, idealized version. There's no way that this is going to come back in the way that I imagine, the relationship to be, right? It was toxic. So at that point, I have to realize that and have radical self-acceptance, move forward in healthy ways, and that'll provide me with a sense of mental freedom. All right, so next we're going to talk about living with personality disorders, right? So for the people that have personality disorders like borderline, narcissists, this is about accepting that your personality disorder is a fundamental part of your psychological makeup. This is not something that can be cured or fixed like an illness. However, it can be managed, understood, and integrated for healthier functioning. You can live healthier functioning life. It's people like this. It's people doing it. Like there's a dude on YouTube that I watch sometimes. His name is Lee Hammock. And he's a self-aware narcissist. He actually makes YouTube videos and teaches people like me, survivors, and like other people that have been abused and stuff, have been in abusive relationships. Like he teaches you basically like the narcissist code, like their language, like, because a lot of times we talk to these people and we're talking one language and they're talking, we don't understand we don't understand each other, right? So it's kind of like that. But yeah, so I like watching Lee Hammock, man. So shout out to him, man. Should check him out sometime. All right, so just as a reminder, remember, like if you have like NPD, BPD, these can be managed, understood, and integrated for healthier functioning. So although it's, typically you don't come across narcissists that are willing to change, you can change if you want to. Let's see. Anyone facing irreparable loss or unchangeable circumstances. So this concept right here applies broadly to grief, chronic illness, and significant life disappointments, or any situation where the desired outcome is simply not possible, right? That was kind of a lot right there. But it applies broadly to grief. And if you know about grief, you can have grief it doesn't just apply to death, right? It doesn't just apply to the loss of a loved one or somebody like that. It also applies, it could be a loss of anything. It could be a house, it could be a car, it could be a piece of clothing. You know what I mean? It could be like the most mundane thing to you or I, but to at the same time, to you or I, it might be one of the most significant things, right? So it's kind of subjective, but and also keep in mind situations where your desired outcome is simply not possible, where, for example, me being with my toxic partner in a healthy relationship, that's simply not possible because she's, because of the disorder and the history, the trauma, like it's just not possible. And that's grief. There's grief that comes with that. I still have memories to this day. I still have to, like reframe thoughts and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of reframing. So let me talk about why this video and plus my experience, right? So I made this video because of my own healing journey and studying human behavior complexities. I've realized that true liberation, true freedom, often comes from not forcing change that won't happen, but from embracing what is. This isn't about giving up. It's about shifting our focus and empowering ourselves to find peace. This video is for anyone that's exhausted by trying to change the unchangeable. Whether it's past actions or someone who hurt you, the nature of your personality disorder, or permanent mental health condition, or any diagnosis. I also wanted to take the time to acknowledge people that have personality disorders, because I see a lot of content available that tends to focus on the harm that they cause, and I understand that accountability is definitely essential, right? But we also need a balanced, fair perspective, when it comes, that highlights the reality of their profound struggles and history of deep trauma. If you have been diagnosed with a personality disorder or some other lifelong mental health condition, please understand that although your disorder isn't fixable like an illness, you can still grow, manage, and live a healthy, productive life. Acceptance is key in this. If this is your life, accept that. Hey, this is a part of me. Like, and the way that you look at it matters. You can look at it as an unfortunate thing, or you can look at it as a fortunate thing and a way to learn more about yourself and how to really grow. It doesn't have to just be negative. You could literally turn a negative into a positive. That's what I've done. I had a bad, terrible, abusive relationship that broke me down, right? To my hands and knees, right? And from there, I've built from there, emotionally, financially, all type of other different ways I've built up from there, right? So, and I'm still working on it, obviously. Not everything's perfect in life, but I'm building still, and that's what matters. I'm growing and I'm healing, right? So for countless days, I carried the shackles of what ifs and if onlys. I wish the past events didn't happen or happened differently. Constantly invested in situations or people that won't change and were beyond my control. Remember, if it's out of your control, lose the shackles. In navigating toxic relationships in my life, I've learned that you can't force someone to change. I learned this the hard way, obviously. These are their core patterns, and if they aren't genuinely willing and consistent to change and engage in healing, then chances are slim to none that they'll change, basically. So this was a painful realization that in life some things are irreparable in the way I hoped for, right? And that some people may never change in the way that I needed them to. But the moment that I truly accepted what was and not what couldn't be was when I felt heavy shackles fall. This is not easy, but it's liberating and empowering. This has been vital for my recovery and has influenced the way I see things and how I approach healing. This can work for anyone affected by these complex dynamics, like the ones that I mentioned already. I'm going to talk about, is going to be key points, unique information, and skills for embracing acceptance. So the first one is understanding the nature of unfixable. For victims, this means accepting that the past is immutable and the core patterns of people with personality disorders are deeply ingrained from childhood. It's trauma, And it's not about condoning behavior, but realizing that you can't love away a disorder or rewrite history. I can't tell you, and when I was reading this, right, it makes sense, because I can't tell you how many times I felt like that. Like I could just love it away, like just love the disorder away type, and it don't work like that. It's not like that. You can't rewrite history. For people with personality disorders, this means accepting the diagnosis, not as a life sentence of brokenness, but as a map to understanding their internal struggles and developing healthier coping skills. So a key point right here that I want to talk about is that true acceptance isn't quitting, right? It's a strategic surrender to reality that frees up time and energy for productive action. So it's like don't look at it as like you're quitting, but look at it as like you're giving up on things that are unproductive. It's not helping you. You know what I mean? And now it's freeing up your time so where you can work on stuff that is productive and is benefiting you in life. This skill requires mindful observation where you learn to observe thoughts of what if or if only, etc., without judgment. So those what ifs and if only moments is where you're going to have this, is going to require mindful observation. Like you have to pay attention to what you're thinking. Like if you watch my other video, I talked about, like one of my most recent ones, I talked about that a lot of times I have to think about what I'm thinking about. And to you that might sound crazy, but to me it makes a whole lot of sense, you know, because I'm somebody who it makes a lot of sense to. And if you're on this video, it probably makes a lot of sense to you too, right? And do this without judgment, right? When you question these when you observe these thoughts and when you start to reframe these thoughts, do it without judgment. Gently redirect your focus to the present and the reality. So number 2 is the power of grieving what could have been. I don't know if y'all can hear those loud ass birds out there. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, so number 2 is the power of grieving what could have been. A significant part of Beyond the Fix is allowing yourself to grieve not just what you lost, but the fantasy of what you hoped for. Whether it's the ideal relationship, the loving parent you didn't have, or the cured version of someone with a personality disorder, right? This is a crucial step and is often overlooked. Unacknowledged grief keeps us stuck in the fixing loop. Grieving allows release. So when we don't acknowledge that we're grieving, and we try to put it on the back burner, act like we're not grieving, it's gonna keep us stuck in this fixing, and this I need to fix something. But once you just finally grieve, you can just release. And this skill requires ritualized release. So whatever that looks like to you, an example of this could be like writing a letter to what could have been, right? And then safely destroying it. Or it could be like engaging in some symbolic actions that signify letting go. For example, throwing a stone into the water for each hope you're releasing. So every hope that you're letting go, you could throw a stone into the water, right? Or maybe you could burn something, or I don't know, grow something, whatever makes sense to you. What I did is I wrote letters. I wrote letters to people in my life that affected me or hurt me or myself even. You know, I wrote a lot of letters, and obviously I never gave them to nobody. They were just for me, right? Or I'll destroy them after. But that's something that I learned in therapy to do. So next, number 3, we're going to talk about differentiating responsibility versus blame versus acceptance. So for victims, acceptance means that the abuser is responsible for their actions, but you are responsible for your healing. Not them, not nobody else, not your mama, not your daddy. Like, nobody's responsible for your healing but you, right? So it's you. You know, and it don't mean it's your fault, you know, but it's your responsibility, point blank, you know. So I say it like that because I feel a lot of people don't take it like that. You know, a lot of people don't take it seriously, right? But it's serious, and the only way that you're gonna change these dynamics that you're used to or that you learned, the toxic ones, is if you look internally and make those necessary changes. For people with personality disorders, it means accepting responsibility for your behaviors and the impact of your actions on other people, right? Because a lot of times you're impacting other people these negative ways. People like me, you know what I mean? people that have already been traumatized a lot of the time. So acceptance is the path to accountability and change. Once you can accept your behaviors and the impact that it has on others, and you can acknowledge that, that is the path to accountability, and this is what's going to change. Acceptance is about clarity, not culpability. So it's about basically, like, it's not about pointing the finger or anything like that, but it's about being clear. It's more so about being clear and accepting. This skill is going to require something called an accountability mirror. So this is where you regularly ask yourself, what's my responsibility in this situation? You know, for example, my healing, my choices, or my boundaries. And then you're going to ask, what's the other person's responsibility in the situation? And then what is the reality that you must accept? Those are the questions that you're going to want to ask. You know, it's not always about, like, blaming the other person or asking what's the other person did. Like, it's about asking yourself, like, how did I end up, what's my part in this situation? Also, number 4, redirecting energy from fixing to building. The energy you spent trying to change the unchangeable can now be changed into building a life you love. For victims, this means building healthy relationships, pursuing passions, and focusing on self-development. For people with personality disorders, this means building coping skills, therapeutic strategies, and a healthier self-concept. Key point: your power lies in what you create and what you choose, not what you control. I know for a lot of people with personality disorders, they got this, like, need to control, right? I don't know if it's because they felt like a lack of control when in their childhood, but for some reason, it's a need to control. So you need to understand that part right there. All right, something called an energy audit. I know these words sound kind of crazy. You probably never heard them before, but this is where you identify where you're expending your energy on fixing. You need to consciously redirect that energy to areas where you can create positive change. So think about it like it's observing your thoughts. When you have these thoughts of fixing things, that's when you want to change those thoughts and reframe them and, like, identify where you're expending your energy on and redirect it. Last one, number 5, cultivating radical self-compassion through acceptance. Unique info. This concept is deeply intertwined with self-compassion, accepting yourself, flaws and all, and accepting your past and the painful realities of your present. This acceptance of difficult truths is a profound act of self-love. The skill requires a compassionate reframe. So when you find yourself resisting reality or judging others for things beyond control, you're going to want to gently reframe, you know, as this could be saying something like, this is a difficult truth, or I accept this moment and I offer myself compassion for navigating it. You're going to want to start telling yourself stuff like that. I know it sounds crazy because if you're anything like me, you've never told yourself anything like that. You've never been taught to tell yourself anything like that, right? I'm sure you haven't. I haven't either. So that's why it's important to start doing this so you can start rewiring your mind. So I lied earlier. This is the last one. Well, this is the conclusion, right? So remember that your journey, your liberation is about embracing beyond the fix. It's not about giving up, but it's about freeing yourself from the chains of what can't be changed. That's what this is about. And it's also a form of empowerment, right? This journey of acceptance is a profound act of self-liberation, paving the way for authentic healing and healthier relationships, and a future built on peace and clarity for everyone affected by these dynamics. So that's it, man. It was a little bit kind of tricky putting this one together low-key because there was a lot of information, you know, and I had to kind of put it in a way that made more sense, right? But you know, I had a lot of fun with it still though, and it's something that I had to do. You know, I live my life like this, you know, beyond the fix. It's some things in life that we can't change, right? And I'm not gonna go through my life trying to change things or people. You know, that's not what I'm focused on anymore, right? So if you like this video, subscribe to this content, man. My content's kind of is going up right now, so I'm trying to get more traction, and I'm trying to get other people to view this information. I think it's pretty vital and important, and it's helpful. Like this video and drop a comment, and let me know how you come, and let me know how you like it, and what you want to see, some things you want to hear about next, right? Some other topics and stuff like that. Make sure that you're practicing radical self-care, self-compassion, eating nutritious meals, exercising, taking care of yourself, setting boundaries, all the stuff that we talk about. I just wanted to make sure that I included that in here because I noticed that I forgot in my video earlier. And you know, I can't do that. We can't do that. You know, we gotta do this the right way. You know, we gotta do this professional, man. You know, what do you think I am? You know, so all right, man. Much love, peace and blessings. I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.